everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Rachel, and in today's video I wanted to share the fantasy romances that are on my TBR for this summer. There are quite a few fantasy romances that I want to read, of course, at all times, but in particular I have quite a few that are kind of at the top of my TBR. I definitely want to make them a priority over the next few months, and I thought it'd be fun just to share the books that have been on my radar, hopefully put some on your radar, and just chat all things fantasy romance. Also, definitely let me know down in the comments if you have read any of the books that I'm about to talk about. I'd love to know your opinions on them. Do you think I'm going to like them, and overall just what your thoughts were? So without further ado, let's get into it. These are the 9 or so fantasy romances that I want to read this summer. All right, the first fantasy romance on my TBR for this summer is Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. This book got put onto my radar by Queen Carissa Broadbent. She posts about Claire Sager's releases pretty frequently. I feel like they are author besties, which I love that. And this book really piqued my interest. I thought that the cover was super beautiful. And once I read the synopsis, I was very intrigued. So this is an adult fantasy enemies to lovers. It is also available on Kindle Unlimited, but I have to say this physical copy, it just feels really good. It's just a nice, thick, floppy paperback. It's super stunning on the cover, and I'm really happy to have the physical copy. So this book follows our main character whose life is in a bit of disarray. She's really down on her luck, trying to find a way to kind of get out of the mess that she is in, and she ends up getting an offer that she can't refuse, which is a big lump sum of money if she ends up killing this dark, evil Fae Lord. So she ends up infiltrating this court, this kingdom, and kind of has to get on the good side of this Fae Lord so that she can assassinate him. But of course, that is not going to go to plan, and the two of them end up falling for one another. I just really like that setup. Particularly, one of the things that the marketing for this book hit on a lot is court intrigue and a lot of like court and political scheming, and I just really love that. I really like the castle setting, and then also just kind of all of the mischievous things that can go on within a monarchy. So I'm excited to see how all that plays out, and watching our main character kind of like fight for herself, see what she can do, but also kind of fighting her feelings for this allegedly terrible Fae Lord that I'm sure is going to be fantastic. So I'm very excited to pick up this book. The next fantasy romance on my summer TBR is, I can never get this title right because it's the A Blank of Blank and Blank, and it's just so hard to remember what order the words go in, but this is The Crown of Oaths and Curses by J. Bree. So J. Bree wrote the Broken Bond series, which is a pretty popular, I believe it's like a paranormal romance series. It's reverse harem. I tried reading that series. I DNF'd it in like chapter 2, something like that. I just wasn't really into it. I didn't really like the main character. I just wasn't in the mood for that type of book. But the Broken Bond series is now complete, and J. Bree is writing a whole new series in a whole different subgenre of fantasy romance. This is supposed to be kind of like a high epic fantasy romance. We have fae, we have witches, we have wraiths, we have water spirits. We have a little bit of everything. That gets me very excited. And I actually did read the 2 prequel novellas that go with this series, and I believe the whole series is called the Mortal Fate series. But I read the 2 novellas last week, and I was actually pretty intrigued by them. I definitely feel like I've seen some growth in J. Bree's writing that I personally liked, and this writing hit me a little bit better, and I'm very intrigued by the setup of this series. So in this world, we have the fae and witches, and they are at war. They absolutely hate each other, and the war has been going on for a very long time. Of course, our main character is a witch, and then our male love interest is the high fae savage prince named Soren, and our 2 characters like couldn't be worse for each other. They absolutely hate the other's people. Soren absolutely hates the witches. He thinks that they should all be dead. Rook, our main character, she feels the same way about the fae. She thinks they're evil and terrible, and you actually find out in the blurb on the back of the book that these 2 are fated mates. So you find that out right at the beginning of the book, which is interesting because I feel like that's usually a later reveal, but it's usually such an obvious reveal that I kind of like that we're finding that out in the beginning and having to see these 2 characters try to make sense of what the fates have in store for them. Our main character ends up joining the Fae army that is against Soren's kingdom, so it's all just a big like political mess. There's different types of Fae fighting each other. The Fae and witches are against each other. There's a very big world here, and from the novellas that I read, I feel like this series has a lot to offer. So I'm very excited. This is also supposed to be a series that gets spicier and spicier, so I'm definitely going into this book optimistic, and hopefully this will end up being a hit for me. The next book on my summer TBR for fantasy romance is The Curse of Ophelia by Nicole Plantania. I've seen this book everywhere. I'm super excited about it. This book has an interesting premise because we start off post-war. The war is over, curses have been lifted. However, our main character, Ophelia, she's not in a great place because the love of her life has been missing for 2 years. He kind of went off on this quest and doesn't seem like it was successful. She has no hope for where he is or what he's doing. But as Ophelia is trying to put back the pieces of her life, she is approached by a messenger, and kind of we have a bit of like a chosen one trope happening where she is told that not everything is what it seems, and that she may be the the only one who can save her people. So this book is not only inspired by Greek mythology, but we also have angels. I believe once again we have a little bit of enemies to lovers, and I am just somebody who eats up the chosen one trope every single time, so I think that this book is going to be really fantastic. All right, the next book I'm going to talk about, I'm super excited about, so much so that I may be adding it to my June TBR because I kind of can't wait. It sounds so good to me, and that is A Court This Cruel and Lovely by Stasia Stark. So this book, once again, very cool premise. In this world, when humans are born, the gods take their power. It's kind of like the sacrifice. We allow you to live, but we take your power. And if anyone is seen alive with power, like if something went wrong, they are killed. However, our main character, she is somebody who the gods didn't end up taking her power, but she has been hiding them for her whole life, obviously running from death and just trying to survive. However, her forbidden power ends up being discovered and she has to flee her village, and she comes across this very ruthless mercenary. He ends up kind of striking a deal with her where he will train her to protect herself and wield her dark power, and in exchange she will help him sneak into this city. And he has like this whole secret plan brewing. So I feel like we have a lot of like secrets. I love gods. Anytime there are gods, I'm like, sign me up. And I just feel like this is a great setup for a wonderful enemies to lovers fantasy romance. The next book on my summer TBR, it's probably the most unique, I would say, from all the ones that I have here, and that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I will actually be reading this month. I'm gonna be buddy reading it with my friend Nadia. We are very excited because this is like a rivals to lovers fantasy romance, and our two main characters are journalists, magical journalists, and the two of them, I believe, kind of like start anonymously communicating with one another and forming this intense connection. However, as the novel goes on, the two of them kind of get embroiled in this war against the gods that is going on, so it is going to get very epic. It starts off in this like very simple way where our main character, you know, she's a journalist, she's trying to win a competition, she ends up communicating with this guy, and then they somehow get dragged into a war against the gods. So I feel like that sounds fantastic. Once again, a very unique story that I really hope ends up delivering. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to be talking about, it doesn't have like an official cover yet, and it doesn't even have an official blurb yet. So my information is limited, but I believe that this book comes out in August, and I'm really excited about it because it is Flame and Sparrow by S.M. Gaither. S.M. Gaither wrote the Shadows and Crowns series, the first book being The Song of the Marked, which is a fantasy romance that I really enjoyed when I read it last year. I will say, as the series has gone on, my interest has waned a little bit. I'm not as interested in the plot anymore. I do really love the characters, but overall, I think that the series is just going on a little bit too long. I actually think that the series should really have just been a trilogy, and I think I would have enjoyed it more, but that's a whole nother topic. But the reason why I'm looking forward to something new from S.M. Gaither is simply that. It's something new from this author that I did enjoy her writing. I did enjoy the first book in her series, but I'm just ready for that series to be done. So I'm looking forward to this brand new series from her because I do really think that I connect to her writing and her storytelling, and I'm excited for something fresh from her. This is also going to be a duology, which I'm excited about. And what I do know about this book is that our main character's sister dies at the hands of the gods, and so our main character kind of takes vengeance on them, but then she catches the eye of the god of fire. That sounds fantastic. Sign me up. I want to live that life. So I'm excited for this. I believe it comes out in August, and I'm just excited to see maybe something new from this author, and hopefully I'll love it a little bit more than her Shadows and Crowns series. Another book that is not out yet, but I'm very excited for, is The Stars Are Dying by Chloe C. Peñaranda. So this book comes out in August. Chloe C. Peñaranda, she did write An Heir Comes to Rise, which I read that book a couple months ago, and overall I wasn't super crazy about the book, and the main reason being it is very similar to the Throne of Glass series. There are a lot of very specific scenes, very specific character types, very specific magic systems. It was all just a little bit too familiar for me. So even though like I enjoyed reading the book, I just felt like due to the lack of originality, I didn't want to continue on with the series. However, once again, I liked Chloe C. Peñaranda's writing style, so I want to give her another chance, and she has a brand new series coming out. And this one sounds very interesting. So our main character, she's a human, and she's living in a world where the celestial guards have abandoned them, the tyrant king rules over them, and wicked vampires roam the land, killing off the humans. But our main character has the opportunity to compete in this like set of trials, and she can compete against other humans essentially for safety. So that all sounds great to me. We have vampires, we have this king who hosts these trials with all of these humans fighting for their lives and hopefully going to come out on the other side as winners, and our love interest is the villain, which I absolutely love that. So hopefully The Stars Are Dying is going to be amazing. The next fantasy romance on my TBR that I'm very excited about is Heavenly Bodies. I have seen so many like reels and annotations of this book. It sounds like it has some really beautiful quotes and some very wonderful enemies to lovers romance. So in this book, our main character receives a prophecy that she is going to fall for a star and it will end them both. But when tragedy strikes in her kingdom, she is forced to flee to the neighboring kingdom that has of course always kind of been their enemy. She ends up meeting the evil enemy prince, and somehow he ends up training her to protect herself and fight against this prophecy that she has and sort of just prepare herself for what is to come. I'm really excited for this one. I really hope that the writing is as beautiful as I have seen in reels and people posting on Bookstagram, so I'm very excited for this one. All right, and the last fantasy romance on my summer TBR is Bound and Barbed. This book has fated mates and enemies to lovers, hidden powers, and in this book, our main character, Evelyn, she ends up being propositioned to be in an arranged marriage that she wants absolutely nothing to do with, so she flees her kingdom, goes to another kingdom, and while she is pickpocketing a stranger, a mating bond snaps into place between her and this stranger. This stranger is a very dangerous immortal, and she doesn't really know if she should trust him or what she should do, and she's completely thrown for a loop. But as her family who has arranged this marriage, they're kind of closing in on her and stating that she needs to go along with the arrangement, I think she's going to end up sticking in this immortal territory with her fated mate. So once again, a story where we find out who the fated mate is originally, which I think is exciting. I think that's enticing because it's always interesting what an author is going to do with that and what the plot twists are going to be. And I've heard just really lovely things about the writing in this book, so hopefully I love it. All right, friends, so that is going to be it for my fantasy romance summer TBR. As I said, if you have read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Do you think I will love them? If you made it to this point in the video and you wanted to let me know, go ahead and leave the fairy emoji. Please make sure that you are following me on Instagram and Goodreads. They are always linked down below. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one.